What are we talking about?
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show brought to you by Sports Empire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine, whether you're watching us live on Facebook, live on YouTube, or live on Roku TV. Thanks to the fine people over at Northeastern Sports Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
A little somber because, the people of Kansas City were supposed to be celebrating a great moment for their team, for their city. And obviously the tragedy that unfolded, that happened. And I'm just kind of with those people. So thoughts and prayers to everybody affected, their loved one, their families. We can just do better.
For those of you who are not aware, at the end of the Super Bowl parade for the Kansas City Chiefs, tragedy happened. 22 people were shot. 21 of those people are injured. One, unfortunately, did pass away. 3 people have been apprehended in connection with the events that took place. Obviously, the NFL has released a statement mourning the loss of that person and sending thoughts and prayers to all of those who were injured. Several Kansas City Chiefs players have also released statements through their personal social medias as well as through the Chiefs' social media in regards to the actions of a few that obviously impacted a much larger group. And as Mo just alluded to, it is supposed to be a time of celebration. It is supposed to be a time of having an opportunity for not only your team to give back to you as fans and interact with you as fans, but it's a shared moment. It's a shared moment because we know that fans, which, fans are short for fanatics, fans give a lot to their teams, whether it be their dedication, whether it be their hard-earned money, whether it be their voices when they cheer for them. We pour a lot as fans into the teams and the players that we want to be successful and that we root for on game day. And these parades and these moments are an opportunity to unite the two, to say that, we appreciate you as fans. We did this for you. We did this for the city. And it's supposed to be joyous, and it's supposed to be something that you look back at 10, 20 years from now. And I was at the parade. I was at the parade when Mahomes won his 3rd, or, whatever the case is, when Brady won his 6th. And unfortunately, this moment will forever be taken by the actions and the choices of a few. And the consequences of this will be far-reaching for the families and friends of those who were impacted. So all of our thoughts and prayers from the morning show go out to everyone in the Kansas City area that was touched in any way or impacted in any way by what took place yesterday. Well, let's take a quick break right now. And when we come back, we will get into the rest of the show today. Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Sports Empire Network. So, Mo, I'm in Walmart the other day, and for some reason, I have like a donut craving. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm somewhat of a donut snob. I grew up, I am. It's really bad. So like I can't do Krispy Kreme donuts. I think they're disgusting. I'm a Dunkin' guy. People find that to be blasphemous. I really don't care. I grew up in the Northeast and New York. Well, I grew up in New York, but if you're from the New York, Vermont area, you know of a company called Freihofer's, and Freihofer's makes a really great donut. So I'm in Walmart the other day. I now live further down south, so we don't have Freihofer's. And I'm looking at donuts in the aisle, and I see the Hostess donuts, and world's #1 donut on the bag. And I'm more of a powdered cinnamon sugar kind of guy, as
My daughter loves
opposed
those.
to the powdered white sugar. But for whatever reason, yesterday the powdered white sugar was looking good, so I was like, let's go with it. And fast forward to 11:30 last night, I'm watching Dark Knight Rises. As I do when I get bored, because that is my go-to movie that I can watch over and over and over again. Fantastic movie. And I'm like, let's crack open the donuts. That most disgusting donut I've ever had in my entire life, Mo.
Oh, really? Didn't go well.
Horrible. It was an absolutely horrible experience. So if you are a Hostess donut person, I am not on your team, and I do not support you. And you need to do better because it was disgusting. So
obviously, as we grow and move on down the path, we won't be getting your sponsorship. But
correct.
Thank you.
But you know whose sponsorship we will be getting? You know who has stood by me the test of time since I was like 4 years old? Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts have never let me down, Mo.
Pop-Tarts, that's GOAT stuff right there, man.
Exactly.
That's old reliable. Put it that way. That's
right. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I mean, the last week I haven't had a cinnamon Pop-Tart in a minute. I've been on a cherry blueberry kick, but I went back to cinnamon. I was like, hey, this is exactly like when I was 10 years old. Nothing has changed here. It's the exact same vibe. So Pop-Tarts is the real GOAT. That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you.
Mo, it was a big day in the NFL yesterday if you are a defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not so much if you are a defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. The Kansas City Chiefs extend their defensive coordinator, Spagnuolo. The San Francisco 49ers, they found a scapegoat, Mo. Got a little scapegoat over there in San Francisco. Wilkes gets the boot. The statement that was released from Kyle Shanahan was that we thought he would be a good fit for us, and it turns out that he just wasn't the right fit that we needed. So what does that tell fans, Mo? That tells fans that clearly people within the organization are looking at the defense as part of the issue this season, or more specifically in the Super Bowl. And Mo, I have to look at that and say, damn. Because you were talking about a defense, and you talked about this going into the Super Bowl, a defense that was very up and down. You said it. You said the Kansas City Chiefs overall have a better defense. Why? Because they're more consistent. You know what you're basically getting from the Kansas City Chiefs defense. The San Francisco defense, at times, elite. At other times, they struggled. And usually it was somewhere in the middle is what you would actually get play to play, down to down, moment to moment. But Mo, I have to say this. That 49ers defense balled out in the first half of that game in the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
Then they lost one of their biggest playmakers on the defensive side due to a freak injury. And despite that, even in the second half, they balled out with Bosa. Let's not forget, there's this weird narrative that in the second half, the Kansas City Chiefs offense just walked up and down the field. Did they score touchdowns, Mo? No, they did not. The one touchdown they scored was on the muffed punt where they got the ball inside the 20-yard line. That's the touchdown the 49ers defense gave up. Sure, you can say that the Chiefs easily moved the ball between the 20s in the second half, and that will be very true. But aside from starting in the red zone, those other three possessions in the second half where they got into San Francisco territory, the defense stood up. The defense kept them out of the end zone. The defense did their job. So yes, the Kansas City offense started to cook a little bit in the second half, but they weren't putting up touchdowns. So in my mind, if you're the San Francisco defense, you did everything you needed to do to stop that from happening, to stop the offense from taking over the game. And yeah, you can look at that last play, the winning touchdown in overtime, and be like, well, he was wide open. Okay, I just want to point out, just for argument's sake, if you look at the last two Super Bowls, Kadarius Toney's touchdown last season, he was wide open. In that same Super Bowl, the touchdown to the rookie, was it Sky Moore?
Yeah, there you go.
Wide open. You're looking at a head coach in Andy Reid. In the last 2 years, Mo, he has drawn up 3 plays in the red zone. The hardest place to score in the NFL, the most congested area in the NFL. In the Super Bowl, the biggest game, the biggest stakes, you're going to get the best effort possible from the other side. He has drawn up 3 plays where he has gotten Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and Mecole Hardman, a rookie who didn't even play in this Super Bowl, mind you, a wide receiver in Kadarius Toney who didn't play in this Super Bowl, mind you, and somebody who was cut by the New York Jets halfway through the season because he wasn't good enough to be a New York Jet. He has got all 3 of them wide open touchdowns. So do not sit here, if you are a 49ers fan this morning, and say, well, I mean, Hardman was wide open. You gotta put somebody on him. No, that's not how that works. Because Andy Reid is very good at taking people that nobody wants, that nobody thinks are very good, and getting them wide open for touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So if you're going to say one play dictated the entire premise of how that defense did in the Super Bowl, you're a joke. I don't want to hear from you. Go sit in the corner. Mo, this is Scapegoat 101. It wasn't going to be Kyle Shanahan. We know it's not going to be Brock Purdy because the fan base loves Brock Purdy.
Right.
So if it's not the quarterback and it's not the head coach, oh, and by the way, the head coach also calls the plays on offense. So it's not going to be the offensive coordinator. Well, there's only one guy left in the room that could be fired where people were going to be okay with it. Sorry, Steve Wilks. You're the guy. Congratulations. It's all your fault. Let's move on to next season.
I want to remind people, look, the Niners defense, it was a good defense. Don't get me wrong. It just wasn't as dominant as some perceive, but it was a defense that Steve Wilks coached that averaged, they gave up 17 points per game throughout the season. So that's a very good defense. It wasn't dominant as they were. And like I said, name recognition had people thinking that they were the better defense, but the Chiefs were more consistent. And I thought, like you, as I watched the game, I would say for more than 3 quarters, I thought Steve Wilks and his defense coached their tails off and played their tails off. Like, they were right there. And mind you, not losing just a guy, but losing their best cover linebacker. Greenlaw's got hands like a receiver, and his side-to-side ability, his quickness, his ability to play in space. He was the guy directly responsible for matching up with Kelce. Kelce did nothing in the first half. No Greenlaw, and Kelce exploded. As great as Fred Warner is, he's an attacker. He's a hunter. He's not a cover middle linebacker. He's not that kind of guy. He can play in a zone, but you match him up one-on-one with somebody like Travis Kelce, and he's going to get eaten alive. And he did. As great as he is, he got eaten alive. That's not Steve Wilks' fault. You can't foresee one of your best players getting injured. You can't foresee a turnover on a punt. That's not your fault either. It's not Steve Wilks' fault that they missed or they got the extra point blocked, right? Because that would have also changed how they would have played defense on that drive and how the Chiefs would have had to play offense. And Steve Wilks didn't elect to take the ball in the first in overtime.
Yeah, let's not forget, Steve Wilks didn't say, hey, I want Mahomes to get 4 downs.
4 downs, right.
Give that guy 4 downs.
Right.
Because
Steve
we
Wilks
love
can make
giving
that
4 downs to goats. Give that goat 4 downs because he needs it.
Steve Wilkes wasn't the one that didn't use his timeouts in the first half. We could go on and on. Surprised that this happened, but I'm disappointed. I didn't think it should have happened. I think Steve Wilkes coached a good football game up until maybe late in the fourth, where I thought he called a more conservative defense more than anything. And when he wanted to bring pressure, he didn't disguise it well. But that's not why they lost. Like you said, they gave up one touchdown in regulation, and that was on the turnover that he has no control over. That defense played his tail off, minus one of its great playmakers. And the idea that you play Patrick Mahomes and company to a standstill, minus one of your top guys, and you lose in overtime, not because you control the offense and they ended up settling for a field goal. That was Kyle Shanahan. And like you said, Kyle Shanahan's not going to fire the OC because he's the OC. And he doesn't have the ability to fire John Lynch, even though he might try. So him and John Lynch had to get together and go, somebody's got to go. We got to give the fan base somebody to go, yeah, that guy Wilkes. And like I said, I don't think he deserved to lose his job. Steve Wilkes, I thought he did a phenomenal job throughout the season. I want to remind people, look at their personnel top to bottom defensively. That is not one of the best secondaries in football. They have a tremendous corner, a good safety, but it's not one of the best secondaries in football. And for all the money that's paid on that front four, too often you don't hear from some of them dudes. You don't remember they're playing. I thought Bosa played well, but overall, I thought Steve Wilkes coached a better football game than Kyle Shanahan.
Let's not forget, and we weren't there, obviously. We don't know how this hit. But, Mo, put yourself in the position of Steve Wilkes as you're calling this game. You're not giving up touchdowns. Bend but don't break. And then late in that game, in a critical situation, Shanahan takes a timeout and changes your defense. Like you're the problem. Like he's had enough of what you're doing over there and the way you're calling the game, to the point where he's like, nope, I'm going to take this timeout. I'm going to go fix that guy because we're not running this defense in this situation when you haven't been giving up touchdowns the entire game.
Chris,
so
by the
again,
way,
I don't know how that hit, but if I'm Wilkes, I'm like, why don't you let me do my thing? Because we're not allowing touchdowns. They're already in field goal range. It's not like you're trying to keep them out of field goal range. That was 4 plays ago. What are you doing, sir?
And I tell you, I think we don't know that private conversation, but I promise you, Steve Wilkes said something to that effect. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're play calling the offense and you're putting my defense behind the 8 ball. And then you're going to come, call a timeout, change what we're doing in front of my guys. And that's my damn job. That, I guarantee you, they had that conversation. And maybe it comes off as Steve Wilkes got fired, but maybe Steve Wilkes said, if you don't think I know what the hell I'm doing, then maybe I don't need to be here, or something to that effect. Because I'm sure he let Kyle Shanahan know, like, you act like you're putting up 30-plus points and I'm holding you back.
Right.
Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're in a tight game with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, one of the greatest offensive play callers of all time, because my guys are doing their job.
Yep. Not giving up touchdowns. Because if we were giving up touchdowns, no offense, your guys aren't scoring enough to keep up if we were giving up touchdowns.
We're getting blown out.
All right, Mo. Let's pivot to some Major League Baseball stuff. We got JG in the house this morning. I gotta find the JG button over here. You may not know this at home, but I have a JG button. All right, it's one of my favorite buttons to push every week. I push it. JG pops up on the screen. We ask him how he's doing. It's a whole thing that we do here. And this morning, it took me a second. I lost the JG button. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
Just like that, like magic.
Just like that.
Good morning, guys. Hey, I didn't even know I had a JG button. I didn't know that. That's news for me. I appreciate that, man.
JG, we're classy over here. You got a JG button.
That made my morning. I'm so happy about that.
Let's talk a little Major League Baseball. So, JG, let's break it down a little bit here. We know, and this is it's a common saying, pitchers and catchers are reporting. We know that every time after the Super Bowl, sometime within a week or so, we're going to hear Major League Baseball, pitchers and catchers are reporting, and everyone in the sports world is like, oh, baseball is heating up, and then they go on with their day. But if you are not into baseball and you are not an avid baseball fan, to you, all you know is pitchers and catchers are reporting. You have no idea what that actually means because we don't actually see baseball for another 5 or 6 weeks or so. So, JG, what does that mean? What does it mean when we say pitchers and catchers are? We know they're not just showing up and having donuts and hanging out and saying hello to each other. There's actually something happening when not powder donuts, that's for sure. We know that they're doing something, JG. So explain to our normal, not super invested baseball fans, what does it mean when pitchers and catchers report?
Well, in regards to the donuts, unless you're Kevin Gosman loves powdered donuts, and I know that from his LSU days. No, I'll give you the player perspective of it. It's like Christmas morning. You get to go back to your teammates, the guys that you love to be around. You get to be you get to be at the ball field. You get to lace up your cleats, put the uniform back on. It's been a long winter. I mean, it's a long winter, and it just seems forever until the morning of players and pitchers and catchers report. It is like, I can give you the poetic answer too. But like I said, it's like Christmas morning for us. We're so excited to be able to be back at the complex, be at the ball field, be able to throw and catch and hit, and be able to do a little light workout with your trainers and coaches again, because you weren't with them throughout the off season, and now you get to get yourself back into we're creatures of habit. Ball players are. Baseball players are creatures of habit, and you take us away from our habit for 3 months, from November, December, January. Here we are now in February, and we get to have that normalcy that we have been ingrained for a majority of our lives about how to be in your routine, and you get to return to that routine. So it was a great day yesterday to be able to just say pitchers and catchers report. We're doing our testing. We're kind of get our physicals that, we're seeing their trainers. They're going to, that guys who've had surgeries in the off season, they're kind of getting through and looking at it again, making sure everything's on track. And then for those who are healthy, you get to be on the ball field. You get to go hit in the cage. You get to be with your hitting coach. You get to be with your pitching coach. If you're pitchers, your fielding coach, infield coach, outfield coach. You get to be with your trainers. It is the greatest feeling to be back. I loved it. It was one of my favorite days. Like I said, in no matter what you could tell me, I love Christmas. Y'all saw me on Mardi Gras on Tuesday. Mardi Gras is one of my favorite holidays, but nothing beats pitchers and catchers reporting when you get to be able to be back at the complex with your team.
Mo, I don't know about you, but we need to become pitchers and catchers so we can report once, so we can experience this Christmas morning vibe. That's all I'm saying, Mo. Mo, you are muted, sir. I want to hear what you got to say.
It sounds better than the ending of Field of Dreams. I mean,
right?
It sounds that awesome. So if it feels that good, I'm on board, JG.
Oh, it is. It is. And look, for I see on the comment, Dustin on the comments talking about you have the winter leagues. Yes, you have the winter leagues, and you get to be able to still play the game. But again, what you're paid to be is in the big leagues. You get to be able to have that, and not everybody gets to go and play in winter ball. That's the other side of it. You have a small piece of people that get to go play in Australia, go play in the Dominican, go play in the Venezuelan league. So, I mean, it's a small group of players that get that opportunity. A lot of guys don't have that opportunity. They turn down that opportunity. So, it's the off season that you guys are away from. So again, you have players, and again, you even have the local players in those leagues that are still there. So, but at the same time, again, when you get to step on. I love that. My very first, I'll never forget when I was with my first spring training with in minor leagues with the Rangers. Be able to step on that grass. That grass was so perfect. It like a knife through hot butter. It felt so good. And I'm trying to paint y'all a picture about it. But my goodness, it was the softest grass. It felt so great just to walk on. And that was your first day. That was the first day that hey, we're back. Baseball is back.
So JG, I'm confused, but part of me is smiling on the inside. Pitchers and catchers have reported baseball is back. We should be gearing up for the success of the upcoming season, but yet the Boston Red Sox are looking to get rid of players. Now, I'm all for it. Like if Boston has any talent on that team, they just want to ship it out before the season begins. That's good for me because that's L's. I'm hearing L's coming your way if you're shipping talent out before the season starts. Walk me through the mindset of the Boston Red Sox as they are still shopping two of their more productive players. You have a productive pitcher, and then you have a young outfielder. What are we doing here if you're the Red Sox?
Well, remember who they brought in recently back into the front office, and as far as personnel, they brought in Theo Epstein, and so he's looking at it. He's looking at the team itself and says, "Our culture of Boston Red Sox has changed, and we are not a winning culture right now. It's been a few years since the World Series run that they had. I believe it was 2018. I think is what it was. That sounds about right. 2018 around that time." It's been years since that happened, and we have gone backwards in Boston for a very long time now since that World Series. We haven't been competitive. That's the key. Have we been when Epstein steps into the office with everybody from the scouting department, from the baseball operations department, from the coaching staff? They look at it and say, have we been competitive since 2018? Well, the answer has been no. The culture has not been good. So we have to figure out, how do we fix our culture? Where did we go wrong? And then we have to make the corrections in there. Now, that's not a knock on those guys who are they're looking at it and saying, as far as trade opportunities to trade, Kelly Jansen, I've heard, was one of the names that they're looking to trade. Duran was another. They're not sitting there saying, well, you're the problem, and we're going to trade you. They're saying the list of players we have, everybody's available. And we are fixing the problem because the culture, you either buy in or the door's over there, and we're going to make sure we fix this because what we have done in the last 5 years has been unacceptable. And so right now, if Epstein says we have to hit a reset button for another 2 years, because we know he can fix this. We've seen him do it before in Boston. We've seen him do it in Chicago. He is the man that can turn it around, but it may take a couple of years, and he's going to try to fix it. So if that means trading pieces, we're going to have to trade pieces. It's not, and the culture of losing in Boston, especially over the last 20, 30 years, the last 20 years, we have known, our generation has known Boston to be a winning franchise. Which is something that you could ask people who watched them in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. They don't know that. Our generation, we know over the last 20 years, basically, Boston Red Sox are a winning franchise. And they have gotten away from that because, again, last place Boston Red Sox in 2023, one of the worst teams in baseball a couple of years ago, as they've fallen downwards. We haven't seen them being competitive since 2018. Things have to change. And Epstein is putting everybody on notice, saying things are going to change.
JG, we know that in 2028, the Oakland Athletics are going to be in Las Vegas. That is the plan. That is what we're hoping for. If all goes well, that's where we are going to end up. Now, with that in mind, baseball still has to be played. It's only 2024 right now. So baseball still has to be played from now until the Oakland A's potentially move to Las Vegas in 2028. So it came out yesterday that they've renewed their lease or whatever agreement they have for playing in their stadium in Oakland. But JG, let's take a further step back. What does baseball look like for this organization for the next 2 or 3 years? Let's say 2028 is the year. The 2028 season, they are not playing in Oakland anymore. That's going to be their first season in Las Vegas. What does this look like for the A's? Because in theory, you're going to want to bring a competitive product for your debut season in Vegas. You don't want to debut in Vegas and win 48 games that season because that's not the way to come out of the gate. Look at the other teams that Vegas has brought in. The Golden Knights in hockey had success right out of the gate. The Aces in the WNBA had success right out of the gate. The Raiders have made the playoffs in Vegas. So, wait, was that in Vegas? Or maybe that was their last season in Oakland. Either way, the Raiders haven't been a complete dumpster fire since they came to Vegas. They've had some success. So, you're looking at an A's team right now. If this A's team went to Vegas this season, dumpster fire. If they go to Vegas next season, they're probably a dumpster fire. So, walk us through Is it just going to be 3 years of trash baseball that no one goes to the games? Is there going to be a plan to make this team young and upcoming as they hit Vegas? Where do you sit? Because I look at this and I'm just like, man, that's a murky mess over there. Is there any clarity if you're an A's fan for what your life looks like for the next 5 years?
No, there is
That's
no
not the
clarity.
answer they want, JG.
Well, I mean, what has recent history shown us about Oakland and their owner to put a competitive team right now? And I've said this to you guys, at times when we talk about the A's, they're not spending money right now because they know the moment they do leave and go to Vegas, the value of the franchise skyrockets. It happens every time, no matter what sport, if it's in the NBA, if it's MLB, or it's in the NFL. When you move to a new stadium, your value increases. I mean, Dallas Cowboys, when they were the first one that really went to that big new stadium in the NFL, and my goodness, their value is they're the most valuable franchise in all of the world. You have the you have the Atlanta Braves who did that in Truist Park. You had the Rangers recently as well in Globe Life. You have that where you sell off a little bit, you lose, you cost yourself some money because you know at the end of the day you're going to make more money back down the road. The problem is, and what your question is so brilliant to ask, you can't fix this in 1 year. You can't fix this problem in Oakland in 2 years. You probably can't fix this problem in 3 years. I feel like I'm channeling, the LeBron James Heat, press conference. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. This is not a 5-year fix. And this is you. And you can open up your checkbook to once they finally move, but it's still going to take time to win. And here's the other part of the problem as well. It's going to take time for the fans to believe that you're able to win, or you're wanting to win as an owner of the A's, because you have shown winning doesn't matter over the last 5 years. Where you trade players, you essentially get AA and AAA guys back that don't develop, they don't get better, and then you continue to lose 50 games. And if you go to Vegas, when, as you said, the Golden Knights went to the Stanley Cup, and they end up just winning the Stanley Cup recently. The Aces are back-to-back WNBA championships. The city wants to win, and they're expecting teams that when they come in, they're going to win games. And right now, the A's have not shown that. And then at the same time, if they do renew their lease in Oakland, who's showing up? They couldn't get people in there when the fans were fighting to keep the A's in Oakland, and they still couldn't get people to show up. They had to actually do a reverse protest to get people to say, hey, we're going to show up and put the middle finger to you in the process because of it. So how do you convince people to come and watch? How do you convince people to show up and just say, over these next few years until 2028 when they leave, to believe in this team and just say, hey, we're going to one last hurrah? They're not into it. And their fans are not going to want to do it. And they're going to it's going to just sit back and go, screw you guys, because you basically didn't care about us in the process for the leading up to y'all leaving.
And that seems like what they're really doing here is they're just pissing off the fans. The fans already aren't going to games. The fans actively boycotted 3/4 of the season last year because they're trying to get the team sold because they don't like the owner, because they think the owner is just sticking it to them. So no one's going to the games. They're not putting any talent on the field. It's not a watchable product in Oakland. And now they're going to be stuck there for another 3 years in this cycle. And JG, aren't you almost in a lose-lose situation? Not saying the owner wants the team to be competitive, not saying he wants to put a winning team on the field, but if you looked at it and you were like, okay, I want to hit Vegas with a team that can maybe go 500, and at least maybe that's our floor. If the team starts getting good, that puts you in a weird spot too, because now all of a sudden it's like, well, I could have made the team decent. Like, that's also weird. So you almost feel like the team has to continue to suck until they move. But the unique part of this is it's not next season. It's not just a season of sucking. It's not like they announced in a year and a half this team is moving. They announced in 4 years this team is moving. So now you literally have all this extra time where you're just going to be awful. That doesn't happen in sports. It usually happens quicker. So now, since there's such a long time drag out period, it's awkward. It's awkward for everyone except for the A's owner, apparently.
No, because the A's owner knows he knows when they move, his value is going to go high. It's going to go up, and then he will open this. He will be the biggest villain. And I know we all bash Rob Manfred for the job he's done as commissioner. The owner of the Oakland A's is going to replace him as the biggest villain of Major League Baseball because we know it's going to happen. He will finally want to spend money when they move. The Texas Rangers just did it. They cut payroll leading up to moving to the new stadium. Once they moved into the new stadium and they got revenue from the new stadium, they started spending money, bringing in Corey Seager, bringing in Jacob deGrom, bringing in Max Scherzer at the deadline, being able to Marcus Semien. You're able to go and acquire guys at that because your value went up. Your payroll can increase. We know this is the playbook of the Oakland A's when they move to Vegas. So it's going to be pissing off so many people in the process because it is deliberate. It is deliberate what he's doing in the last 5 years leading up to this year, this moment, and for the next 3 to 4 years before they leave to Oakland. That's what I'm saying. You can build a winning team right now. Nobody's showing up to watch them. They are so angry and so pissed off in the process of what has happened leading up to 2024 and leading up into 2028. That even if they could, you talk about this could be the 2003 Oakland A's that won 20 games, and the Moneyball Oakland A's that with the 20 straight games was one of the hottest teams, and I guarantee you they wouldn't get 5,000 people to show up in that stadium because they are just absolutely fed up with the owner. They are fed up with the situation that they are getting screwed out of. And as a player, I'll give you a player perspective about this. You're not happy in this situation either, because especially you have guys who are on rookie deals, who are AAA guys that are just getting called up. You are in a lose-lose situation because when you play for the A's and you get your ass kicked every night and your numbers are terrible, how do you go to another team when your time and they decide to cut you after they move to Vegas? How do you explain to the team, well, hey, I did my best with the situation that I was in, and this is what my numbers are? Teams are going to look at it and say, yeah, I get it, and I agree with you, but there's a guy over here who has better numbers, and we're going to go after him. They're screwing a lot more than just the fans out of Oakland. They're screwing these players, and they're putting them in situations where they're going to fail. That's the problem here. And I'm kind of disappointed in the players' union not bringing attention to the situation in Oakland, saying this is not right what y'all are doing. And this needs to be fixed now before you go to Vegas, because we know this. We know the playbook. You're going to spend money when you go to Vegas. Right now, you are not, and you're putting these players' careers in jeopardy because they're not going to succeed.
Now, JG, there's a floor in Major League Baseball, correct, for spending?
There is a floor, yes. There is it's a very lenient floor. I would put it that way. It's not like the NBA. The NBA has a hard floor in their salary cap. MLB does not necessarily have a hard floor that has to be spent. That's why teams like Oakland and Miami and Pittsburgh can keep cutting payroll and get. You have 26 guys on your roster, so you're still going to be $30 to $40 million in your payroll versus teams that are $200 million to the Dodgers and Red Sox and Yankees and whatnot, Phillies. But there's a floor. It's just a very lenient floor that teams will continue just cutting and cutting and cutting as much as they're able to. And then Major League Baseball at times will say, "Hey, that's enough. Don't you can't pay a player chump change at this level. There is a minimum floor you have to be at, but there's nothing." You won't get a penalty floor. They're going to fine you, take the draft pick away, and say you got to get back to it. That's not the case in Major League Baseball.
JG, before you get out of here, real quick, let's hit on Dylan Cease. We've heard the trade rumors all off season. He reported to camp, despite the fact, and his camp acknowledged that there has been zero conversations about an extension. So it doesn't look like an extension is on the table right now for Dylan Cease. He has been involved in numerous trade reports during the offseason. Now he's in camp. So he's doing his part as a player, showing up, being there for the team. How do you think the Cease situation plays out? Is he going to be traded before the deadline? Are they going to come to terms with him and you're going to extend him? What's Chicago going to do with Dylan Cease?
There's two different options that I kind of see this, or I'll give three options that I see this is happening. One, he does stay in Chicago through spring training and is a trade piece at the deadline. There is another option that I see that he gets traded during spring training. And then the third option, which is the very least likely option, is he stays in Chicago throughout the season. I expect the White Sox to be a very bad team, and I don't see them being competitive and keeping a trade asset like Dylan Cease. If he puts up numbers that he needs to put up, he didn't have the greatest of numbers last year, and I think that's kind of cooled off his market. But we know the potential. And again, it's the same thing I just said about the Oakland A's players. You take Dylan Cease off of the White Sox and put him on a competitive team, I bet you the numbers do get better. And so that's why there is a market still for Dylan Cease, and people and teams are inquiring for him. The other side of it is do the White Sox lower their asking price for Cease? It has been astronomically high all offseason. That's why the Atlanta Braves, who I said were going to be the team that acquires Cease, the Braves said no, because they were wanting top 3 prospects, 2 top 2 pitchers, and another top prospect to go into the deal with another prospect. They wanted 4 prospects for Dylan Cease. Well, when you have an ERA that was around a 4.58 ERA in 2023 is what it was, and to be exact, you're not getting top 4 or top 3 prospects with a 4 prospect deal. That's not the case. If he had a Blake Snell type of ERA, different story. But with a 4.58 ERA who struggled at times throughout the season, you got to lower your asking price for the White Sox. So right now, their asking price is still too high. I think a team is going to look at them and tell, lower it, and then maybe, yes, we will have a conversation. But at the moment right now, we're not trading our farm to be able to go and get Dylan Cease in here. You're going to have to lower the price down a little bit more, and then we can talk from there. It's essentially a give or take by the White Sox and the teams that are inquiring for him. But I do think that the two more likely options is he gets traded in spring training and then get done with from there, or he makes it through the spring training with the White Sox and gets traded at the deadline. And the value at that point does go a little bit higher because the team is a little bit more desperate to acquire him because they want him to finish out that second half in a playoff run. So I think that would be, if I had to give you the ranking, he stays on the White Sox until the deadline, and then we see a Dylan Cease move happen from there.
JG, pleasure as always, sir. We will see you next week.
As always, guys, I appreciate it.
Mo, a lot of things happen in the world of sports that maybe you and I don't understand because we're not professional athletes, all right? So I guess it would be unfair of us to completely judge this next situation because we haven't been in their shoes. But Mo, part of me says that if you and I were professional athletes, I don't think we would be showing up to arenas looking to throw hands with somebody before a game because they wanted to smoke. I don't think that's what you and I would be doing. But Mo, that's what took place in the NBA. And this is a completely ridiculous story. Detroit Pistons center Isaiah Stewart was arrested. He was arrested at the arena for assault for punching Phoenix Suns center Drew Eubanks hours before the two teams played. Apparently, he was waiting outside for him for when Drew arrived at the arena, and he caught him either, as he was about to enter the building or just after he entered the building. And, he basically assaulted him, because that's what we do, right, Mo?
That's what you do if you don't want to be a professional athlete for very long.
Like,
what is that? I look, we can keep saying these guys are young and they need to mature. Dude, this is one of them situations where you knew better and you still went ahead and did it anyway. It's not like you knew, like, once I do this, I'm good. Like, It's not going to be a thing. I won't get in any trouble there. No ramifications. You knew there were all those things, and this could impact your career where you won't have a career. At a minimum, I have to assume a lengthy suspension is coming, right? Like maybe 30, 40, maybe the rest of the season, and it'll be well deserved. You literally waited outside for someone and assaulted them.
I mean,
got arrested.
Let's be honest. Draymond didn't get arrested for what he did. If you need to compare like what's the most recent thing the NBA has done for ridiculous behavior, and the most recent thing is what Draymond did, right? Draymond very clearly, purposely hit somebody in the face on the basketball floor during a game, and he got a suspension for that. It was an indefinite suspension when it first happened, and then he had to go through all these things before he came back. So that's all we really have right here to compare that to. Because this was technically an in-the-game kind. I mean, the game hadn't started yet, but it was at the arena. You were there because you had a game that night. It was a player on the other team. This is very close to being an NBA situation, not I was at the bar or I was at the club or I was chilling with my friends and someone started popping off of the mouth, so I knocked him out. No, like you had issue with this other player from this other team, and you rolled up on him as he was coming in to his work, to his place of employment, and you assaulted him. So
it's close. But I would say in the Draymond situation, you're in the game, and I guess Draymond's defense would be like, I didn't plan on doing that. It happened in the moment. However it played out, it happened in the moment. Isaiah Stewart put some thought into this.
Premeditated.
Yeah, right. This is exactly. Look, I watch enough Law and Order. This is premeditated.
And guys like Stu, what are you doing? I'm good. I'm waiting for somebody. I'm just waiting for somebody. I'll be there in a minute.
Right. And they're like, "Come on, man. We gotta go through the layup line. We gotta get ready." He goes, "I'll be in there in a minute." He knew what he was gonna do. So I have to think 25, 30, or the rest of the season. Somewhere in that range.
Mo, it also came out NBA news yesterday that the Warriors, and there's a couple layers to this. So I'll give you the headline first. The Warriors make the pitch to get LeBron James. The Warriors legitimately pursued LeBron James in the closing days and the closing hours of the trade deadline. Obviously, they were told no. We don't know what they were actually going to offer or if they even got to that point as far as exchanging names. I don't believe they did. I believe it was just the inquiry of, could this happen? And they were told, no, it can't happen. And that's where it kind of died down. But Mo, I think and this is funny because obviously you would say, wow, that's a pretty big story. The Golden State Warriors want to pair up LeBron James and Steph Curry. That's something. No, the bigger story here is how it all went down. How it went down is the owner of the Golden State Warriors calls the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers and says, hey, we want LeBron. Is he available? We see what he's tweeting. It doesn't look like he's happy. Can we make this happen? And the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers says, call LeBron's people and see what he wants to do. Mo. Clearly, LeBron James is running this franchise. When an owner calls you as an owner of a team and says, hey, we're interested in player A, and your response isn't no, or your response isn't I'll look into it and let you know. When your response is, wait, you got to call his guy and see what he wants to do. And then if he wants to do it, come back to me and we can talk. Mo, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, you are the owner of the team, Jeannie. Do you want to trade him or not? And I saw what Lakers fans were saying this morning. They're saying things like, well, Jeannie is a player's owner, and if a player's not happy, then she doesn't want him to be a part of the organization. So, she always relies on what her players want to do. I'm sorry. If somebody called for AD, Jeannie would not say, go call AD's people. She would give you an answer, and the answer would probably be no, we're not going to trade AD. LeBron James is
Don't
running.
forget,
Well,
AD's people are LeBron's people.
correct. She might say, "Go call LeBron's people."
Right.
Maybe her default statement in this situation is player A available? Go call LeBron's people. They'll tell you if player A is available. Mo, it's very clear who is running the Los Angeles Lakers right now, and it is LeBron James.
And look, I think that the relationship between LeBron and Lakers management, I think it's been a good relationship for the better part of his tenure there. But I think as he gets closer to the end of his career and he's still in the hunt to obviously win more titles, it's been more strained. And I think that it's on both sides. So would it surprise? It goes back to what I said in leading up to the to the trade deadline. I said you have to believe that Jeannie's given it some thought. I'm not talking about with Golden State, but going forward, because LeBron he can clearly opt out. Now most people say he's going to opt in and get that $51 million next year. Most people say. I say if the Lakers have a disappointing end to their season, he's as good as gone. And all the rumors about where they're gonna go after Donovan Mitchell and they're gonna go after none of that stuff matters if those guys don't want to come to LA. And a lot of those guys aren't interested in coming out. Here's the myth about the Lakers is that the Lakers get everybody they want in free agency. And here's the reality. The two biggest names they've ever gotten in free agency, they got Shaq in 96. And then they got LeBron a couple of years ago. There's a big ass gap between 96 and when they got LeBron. They don't get anybody in free agency more times than not. That's just a fact. It just is. So the story is crazy, but I think that he has a lot more power. I don't think it's shocking that he has the power, but now it's kind of really out there when Jeannie says, talk to LeBron's people and see what he wants to do. That to me, that message. I'm like, wow. Jeannie says, talk to his people. Like, Jeannie, you're supposed to be the one to go yes or no. You're supposed to have that authority. I thought that was kind of stunning, and I know she's always deferred to big name players. She grew up with Magic. She deferred and loved Kobe, but this is more than being a player's owner. This seems like LeBron is like a co-owner, if you will. That's insane that he touts and has that much power this late into his career.
Completely wild. Mo, before we get out of here today, a couple of NFL nuggets to follow up on. One is not going to make you feel any better about the situation, but apparently Patrick Mahomes was mic'd up at the end of the Super Bowl, and the mic caught a conversation that took place when overtime first began after the coin toss and after the 49ers chose to receive the ball. And it was essentially Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Coach Andy Reid laughing, poking fun, in disbelief at the fact that the Niners actually chose to receive the football and not take the ball second to see what the Chiefs would do first. Mo, just further proof that taking the football first in overtime was probably not the right move.
I wasn't laughing, but I felt like I was in on that conversation because I know how I felt in the moment.
And then second thing to follow up on, props to Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce is the brother of Travis Kelce. They have a very
awesome job by him.
Very successful podcast together. And yesterday's episode, Jason, I'm not going to say he called out his brother. I'm going to say he addressed the situation with Travis and Coach Andy Reid. And he told Travis that what he did was crossing a line. He said that it wasn't acceptable. Travis initially tried to kind of joke it off. And then Jason came back and said, even the yelling, even the you getting in his face was crossing a line, and that there were many other ways to handle that situation. At which point Travis acknowledged the fact that he went too far. He acknowledged that he shouldn't have put hands on Coach Reid. And he also opened the door to the fact that there was a conversation between him and Coach Reid after it happened off camera.
Yeah.
He made a comment. He didn't get too much into it, but he made a comment about how Coach Reid came up to him and just explained to him, dude, there are a dozen cameras on me at every single moment of every single game. You can't do that. Now, did it get further into that? I don't know. But it also, I like the fact that he shined light on the fact that Andy did address it in the moment. It wasn't something where he talked about him after. Maybe he did talk about him after the game too. I don't know. But Andy left that open to interpretation when he spoke about it, because we don't know when or if he actually had a conversation, because Andy was all, haha, it's just Travis. We're good friends. It is what it is. So literally in a 3-minute segment on a podcast, Jason Kelce did everything that needed to be done with this Travis Kelce situation. He held his brother accountable twice, and he allowed Travis the opportunity to apologize and say he was wrong, which he did. And then we found out that Coach Reid addressed it in the moment, even though it wasn't caught on camera. And for me, Mo, that's all that needed to happen. It was a mistake.
Agreed.
It was held accountable for, and we move on. And up until that moment yesterday, that hadn't happened yet. It was just a big apology tour from everyone, including Andy Reid. Passion, emotions, stress. And Jason, Jason did go on the segment to say that, people don't understand what happens during sports. So he did kind of lean into that a little bit, but he opened with the fact that it could have been handled better. It wasn't handled appropriately, and a line was crossed. And for me, Mo, that is all I needed.
I love the conversation they had, and it wasn't like he came at Travis Kelce. He just pointed out, you can't do that. Even the yelling, like he held him accountable without attacking him. And I thought that Travis conceded, hey, I was wrong. Big Red, I'm sorry if I came at you wrong. Like that was so simple, and he handled it so well. I think that's all that was needed. Like, again, well done to the Kelce brothers.
Great show on a Thursday, Mo. Close us out, sir.
Thank you guys for everybody in the chat. Chris and I appreciate your support. Check out all the great content that we have to offer to you coming further as we move on. Check out all the great content that we have with Wire to Wire and Sports Empire Network.
Make sure you're here tomorrow morning. We got some great things to talk about. We are talking about the quarterback room with the New England Patriots. We're going to talk about WrestleMania with Triple H and maybe The Rock, ? And then we are also going to be breaking down a quarterback list that Mike Greenberg released that I think might be the biggest joke that I've ever seen. But we'll get to that tomorrow.
We have to get into that. That was not good.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All of that and more tomorrow morning here. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show, and we will see you tomorrow morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, guys, any